This week on The Real Housewives of Potomac.
Get your ass up on my bed. Get out. Get out. Not today. You want to act unladylike? Take your things and be gone. Toodle do. I've had enough.
I'm done.
Get out.
I have other things to do
Get out.
today.
Toodles.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, Episode 10. Let's get right into this. Alright, you guys, this was a really good episode. I did really enjoy last week's episode, but I think this one definitely made up for that episode. It was really good. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get right into this. We're 10 episodes in. Wow, 10 weeks. Wow, that is crazy how fast the season's gone by. It's been really good. Okay, so the episode opens up with Gizelle at a dealership. She wants an electric vehicle. She cares about the environment. Okay, Gizelle, that's good. She doesn't want the glaciers to melt, which, again, true. I wonder if you know what? I wonder if we will ever get to a time where all vehicles are electric vehicles. Probably not, but who knows? All right, so Wendy is there with her too, and she tells Gizelle that she too is getting one. She wants to get an electric vehicle too, but she does say to Gizelle, I don't want to pull a Stacy and copy you. I want to tell you in advance that I'm also planning on getting one. And Giselle's like, well, speaking of Stacy, what are you thinking about your girl? And Wendy's like, well, sometimes people can really like what you're doing and they want to mimic you. She goes on to say that Stacy reached out to her stylist and wanted the stylist to style her. And of course, we know that Stacy is starting her weed line or cannabis line, so it's also kind of like looks like she's copying Wendy type of thing. So well, yeah, Wendy thinks that Stacy is trying to copy her, but she doesn't really agree that all the girls are doing the pile on her, because she thinks that while she may be a copycatter, obviously she's not a bad person. Gizelle says, but she lies a lot. We all see it. She says that she is going to step back and just like let her be, though. She's not really gonna go in on her, but she's just going to kind of ignore her. Then they test drive one of the vehicles. This scene was very nice, and for once in a long time, Gizelle and Wendy seemed to really like each other. Like, they seemed to be enjoying each other just in a fun way. Gizelle casually mentions Karen and says that she really wants Karen to come back home already, especially now that Monique is back. It would be nice to have everybody together. And Wendy says, well, last time I saw Monique, she had a binder with her. But she seems like she's in a very positive place now, and Gizelle says that she wants to have a sit down with Monique to really talk things through. Alright, and then moving along to Stacy, she's hanging out with AJ, her best friend. He's a really good friend of hers. Stacy is one day from launching her cannabis gummies. The brand's name is Shio. She's going to launch it on Juneteenth. She says that she's actually the first African American woman to have her own cannabis business in the state of Virginia. She mentioned it to the ladies in the group, and it didn't seem like any of them cared. None of them seemed excited for her, or like at least told her good job or anything. So she feels no support. She feels like she's always being accused of something. Then Stacy fills AJ in on the whole drama that we've seen these past two episodes about Stacy being involved with Monique and Chris and Cookie and all that drama. She also tells him that recently she and Tia kind of went in on it. He says to her, let their asses have it. Put your foot down, which I would expect that from a friend saying that to his other friend who's being torn apart by everybody. So I understand him saying that. All right, then moving right along, we see Tia. It's a solo scene of her working. She was talking to somebody who she works with in her element. I'm really fascinated by her story of her childhood and upbringing. She will say little bits of it every once in a while. She does say that unfortunately her dad didn't know too much on how to maintain the wealth that they had, which is disappointing, but she says that she's learned from it. Anyway, so after she talks to her business partner, she calls Stacy. She gets her phone, calls her, and Stacy does pick up. Tia says, I just got your invitation to your event, so thank you. I would like to come and support, but I would also like us to talk, because the way things unfolded at Giselle's event was not how I would have liked. Stacy says, yeah, I mean, your response was surprising. I don't know what's going on with this. And Tia says, yes, let's sit down, figure it out, what's going on. I am definitely upset, so I want to talk about it. Stacy says, well, I appreciate you calling. So that was that. Then we see Ashley and Josh. Now, they go to an arcade. I actually like Josh. I think he's cool. Looks like he brings out a fun side of her. But she sits up in a confessional talking about the type of dates that they go on, especially, for example, like this when they're going to an arcade, as I just said. But she says something about, oh, well, like, I'm used to a different caliber. I've had a man, for example, rent out an entire restaurant just for him and I. Okay, Ashley, go get you one of those guys then. Go get another Michael Darby. Don't be wasting this poor guy's time. So then after they had fun at the arcade, they sit. And she tells him that she's been struggling. And essentially she breaks up with him. She says that, you're younger and I know that you want to have kids. I'm not sure if I want to have kids, but if I were to have kids, it would have to be within a year or two, which I know you wouldn't be ready by then. And he's like, well, what makes you say that? She says, well, there are things like finances that we need to consider. He says, you don't know what my finances are. You don't know what I have or don't. I'm not a flashy person. And she's like, well, come on now. Like, we've never taken a trip. He says, did I not just invite you to go to Pittsburgh a few days ago? And she's like, well, Pittsburgh, I mean international. And like she just keeps bringing up all these reasons why she doesn't want to stay with him or why it wouldn't work out. So then he obviously is like trying to respond to them, trying to like defend himself against those reasons. And she eventually says he'll be happy with someone else. So that's what that scene was. Listen, it was good that she let him go before she continued to drag him along any longer. But she really just admitted that her main priority in a relationship is wealth. And I mean, that's her decision. She will have to deal with being a gold digger. But that's what that was. But I will say, I don't know, I felt some type of way about it because I feel bad for this guy. Could you imagine being on national television, being filmed, having this girl dump you after calling you broke, essentially? That is humiliating. Poor Josh. Justice for Josh. Okay, let's get to this sit down. The Monique and Gizelle sit down. So as they're both walking into the restaurant, production, they edited like iconic sounds from their previous fights, like past your holy whore, or I have 4 homes, those iconic lines that we all remember. So they meet inside the restaurant, they say hi to each other. Monique says there's a lot to discuss. And Gizelle says, I mean, where do I begin? Do I begin with Drag Me, Monique? And Monique's like, no, my dragging days are over. That's behind me. But it's been 5 years, you guys, since these two have, been together. Monique says to Gizelle, I really had to sit back and think, why was I even mad at you? I realized that I wanted to be the victim. While I was getting divorced, I wanted to make peace with people and fix situations. And you were like the last person that I wanted to make peace with. It doesn't mean you're off the hook. But at the time, my main issue with you is that I noticed that you had a tendency to be in people's relationships. And that was the time when Gizelle sort of like divulged the rumor that Monique had been intimate with her trainer while being married to Chris. We all remember that rumor. Gizelle, I'm not saying she made it up, but she definitely repeated it on camera. Monique says that she was just in a protective mode in that point. So because she felt like Gizelle was attacking her situation, her instinct was to attack Gizelle back in whatever situation she had at the time with Bryant. But Monique says that the other day when they were at that Pride event and she saw Grace, it made her see that she feels bad, how it might have impacted Grace. Gizelle says, okay, I at that time, it felt like there was a lot of hate coming from you towards me. And then Monique's like, yeah, but I mean, you did stuff too. And Gizelle says, I have felt sorry. Now, Gizelle, who says I have felt sorry? That is not an apology. But anyway, Gizelle continues and she says, I felt like you were on one. I'm going to be honest. I feel like you were ready for the drama. And after the fight, I felt like you wanted that to happen. And Monique's like, no, I would have never wanted that to happen. But at that point, she kind of describes it as being like so much stress, like a mountain of stress and anger and problems and everything. And Candy Girl just happened to be on her nerves that day. And that was like the tipping point. So that's why that happened. So she's explaining all of that to Gizelle. And Giselle's like, well, who was in your ear making you be all that crazy? And Monique's like, it was just the pressure of who I was married to and wanting things to seem like they were okay. So yeah, they kind of talk that over and then they agree to talk. They're not going to trash each other unless they talk about it at some point. And then they even hug at the end. No, I don't know how I feel about this. Okay, as a regular, normal person, I feel like, wow, great. I love resolution. They made up. Awesome. Now, as a Housewives fan, as a devoted Housewives fan, I hated this because a lot of us have dreamed for times like these where Monique would be back. But are you serious? You came on to this lunch letting Gizelle off the hook for pretty much everything. Gizelle took no accountability. She didn't even apologize. Her only words were, I have felt sorry. Whether or not Monique wanted to pretend like her marriage was perfect or not and was stressed out about that, that's one thing. But to pretend like Gizelle wasn't very much involved and constantly going after Monique and always having an issue with her, we're not going to act like, come on, Monique, what's going on? I'm gonna need you to be that season 5. No, and you know what? What Gizelle, whatever you threw out there during that reunion towards Gizelle, that was warranted because at the end of the day, it was very much deserved because it was the truth. You had those messages. Her and Jamal were faking a storyline. We needed to know that. But anyway, y'all let me know what y'all thought about that sit down. So then we see Greg. He is with Kay's mom and Angel. And they are helping him do some ring shopping. He goes to a ring shop. They're looking at different rings. Looks like he finally has decided to make her his fiance. Angel has known Kay for a long time, so that's good that she's there. And obviously, Kay's mom is her mom, so of course she's going to be there. I really like that Kay's mom was asking the right questions in the nicest way possible. Like, she's asking Greg, so are you going to buy the band and the condo? You're going to make her your fiance before she moves in, right? Like, she's got to make sure she knows this. And he's like, yeah. They were looking at some rings. They were very expensive. There was one that was $2 million. Obviously, he's not going to buy that. But even others that were like $200,000. That's too much. That's a lot. He did seem very nervous, but that's kind of like how we've seen him most of the time when he's on camera. All right, then we see a scene with Ashley and her sister Jessica, who's identical to Miss Sheila. So she's going away to college, so they're shopping for her dorm. It was a nice scene, but you know what? Ashley made me so mad in that other scene that I don't even feel like saying anything about this scene. But especially with her coming into this scene, talking about, oh, Josh hasn't talked to me in 2 days. I miss him. Shut up, okay? Anyway, but I do feel bad because in this scene, Jessica, her younger sister, you gotta remember, her dad is the man who Miss Sheila is with, who they keep saying is a bad guy for her. He does have addiction issues, so Jessica talks about this, and she's crying about it because it's her dad. It's her dad. And she wishes she could help him change, because he is really, it's really affecting him, but, she can't really do anything about it. So, yeah, it was for sure, it was a lot in that scene. Then moving along, Eddie and Wendy are doing a pop-up shop for Happy Eddie's business. Now, this is kind of weird. Wendy says that Stacy, was really like reluctant to involve Wendy at all in the process of her opening up her cannabis line because of a conflict of interest. Huh? I don't know. That sounded weird from Stacey, but yeah, Wendy's doing her own thing. She's not going to really be supporting Stacey's thing because again, Stacey says that it's a conflict of interest. But then we get to Stacey's event. She had this place that she rented out. There was lots of merch, balloons. I will say Happy Eddie does look much more established, whereas Stacey's still looks a little bit more like a small business. But of course, she's just opening it, right? I'm sure that it will grow, just as Happy Eddie has grown. So Stacey has her friend AJ there, obviously. Jazzy gets there, so does Tia. Ashley. Now, Angel won't be there. She couldn't go. Gizelle didn't want to go, straight up. I don't think Kay was invited. And then obviously Wendy will not be there either because she's at her own thing. So the whole group won't be there, which I'm sure is very upsetting to Stacey to see that not everybody wanted to come support her. Her husband isn't there either, by the way. Anyway, when Ashley got there, she came in already being shady because Stacey was wearing the same dress that Ashley had worn a few days ago, which apparently it's now the second time that Stacey does that, so Ashley thinks that Stacey is trying to be her. But it is nice that Ashley went there to support her, but Stacey wants to have a private conversation with Ashley, so they go to the side, and Stacey asks Ashley, how do we move forward? Because you always want to concentrate on negative things about me instead of moving forward. Everything you have brought up, I have proven to be not real. Monique has let whatever issue there was go. Wendy is letting this issue go. Like, why are you so upset about it? And then Ashley's like, I don't want you to be a lying ass hoe about it. So I'm here, but I'm here. I'm here supporting you. Can you acknowledge that? Stacey says yes. And can you acknowledge that I have apologized a lot of times? So I'm asking you, woman to woman, I need you to stop. So Ashley says, well, I'll stop when you stop giving me something to talk about. Then I'll stop. So if you stop lying, I'll stop talking. So they're going back and forth. So Ashley's like, no more lies. And then Stacey says, no more evil. They got a little loud for a second, but they kind of leave it at that. Then they go into another room, and Ashley's still going off about how she's been in this group for 10 years. She's telling Stacey that she's been authentic most of the time, and she says that holding people's feet to the fire is how they get closer as friends. And Stacey's like, okay, I mean, I'm starting to understand that. And then she kind of pivots to talk to Tia. So Stacey is trying to explain why she has an issue with Tia, and it really all stems from a few episodes ago when Stacey and Themo were with Arabella during her swimming lesson, and she invited Tia to meet Themo. Now, if y'all recall, when they were all there, Tia invited Themo to dinner with the Osefos as well. Themo said that he couldn't because he was leaving that day. So when Tia and her husband go to dinner with the Osefos, Tia casually lets Wendy know. Wendy then decides to call Stacey. So Stacey says that when she got that call from Wendy saying, like, why aren't you here? She heard Tia say she's full of it. Talking about Stacey. So she's explaining that. And then Tia says, well, no, I said you're full of it because you said that he just flew back the day of the dinner. So Stacey's trying to give her side as to why she's upset with Tia. Tia is correcting her on a few things. So they begin to argue. But Stacey's main point is that she didn't want Eddie and Wendy to meet Themo right away because at the end of the day, those two were in the center of the whole reunion TJ drama, which is true. She feels like Tia is overstepping. Tia says, okay, now let me tell you why I am upset with you. When I came into this group, I heard a lot of bad things about you. But I gave you the benefit of the doubt, even though you were calling me, asking me to have your back. And then Stacey interrupts her and she's like, that is not you. I've never said that. You are a liar. And then Tia says, don't hijack this conversation. Shut up for a second. And then Stacey says, this is the real Tia. She plays prim and proper. And then Tia says, I am prim and proper. And then Stacey says, you have no manners. You want to fit in so bad. And then Tia says, well, you've been in this group for a year and still don't fit in. What does that say about you? So they're going back and forth and back. And then Stacy says, get out. Take your things and be gone. Get out. Toodles. And Tia goes. She leaves. And that was the end of the episode. Okay, here's my thing. I still feel how I felt 2 episodes ago. When it comes to Ashley and Gizelle going in on Stacy, I'm on Stacy's side because they're doing way too much, coming at her way too hard. They got all the smoke for her. Now, just like I felt at Giselle's party, I still feel the same way right now. When it comes to Stacy versus Tia, I'm on Tia's side. I really don't think Tia is going against Stacy because the whole group is. I genuinely think that Stacy is gaslighting the hell out of Tia in this situation because at the end of the day, Stacy, what your husband told Tia and what you then told Wendy the night of the dinner does not match up. So you lied, okay? Either you lied or your husband lied. We don't know, but to try and make it seem like Tia is the one that did this, like maliciously or is quote unquote overstepping, she was not. I'm totally on Tia's side. And by the way, Stacy, your smoke towards Tia seems to be way stronger than when you're going up against Ashley and Gizelle. I will say that. And it's like, why? Because she's new? I don't know. But anyway, I'm on Tia's side on this. But you guys let me know what your thoughts are about the ending. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.